It's Black History Month, and I got something to get off my chest. I don't like the way the NBA celebrates it. Every year, when February rolls around, the NBA hosts their annual celebration where they celebrate Black history and highlight the various civil rights heroes who helped combat segregation and racism during the formative years of the league. And I have no problem with that. But it feels like when they have these celebrations, they tend to treat it as if Black history is over. And while it is important to focus on the heroes of the past, let's not act like there aren't current Black history icons in the league and guys that the league chooses to ignore for one reason or another. So as my way of celebrating Black History Month, I've gone and compiled 3 moments and figures of Black history that the league chooses not to show you. But before we do that, let me set the mood and get into character right quick. That's better. Moment 1. The NBA changes its dress code in order to suppress Black style. We're not pulling any punches in this video. As we've come to know, the NBA is one of the most fashionable leagues in the world, due to its players who utilize their unique sense of fashion to showcase their personalities in ways that previously were made unavailable to them. When I say these opportunities weren't available to them, I'm of course talking about the 2005 dress code, where David Stern, in an attempt to rid the league of its hip-hop influence, tried to force all NBA players to wear business casual, and resulted in some of the biggest suits I've ever seen in my entire life. Look, I understand that 2005 was a baggy era, but look at these suits. Why is the suit so big? Why is it so baggy? What was he doing? What were we thinking? Like I said earlier, the dress code was an attempt to rid the league of its hip-hop influence, and it was mainly due in part to AI's influence and the malice at the palace. And while I will agree that it's never a good look for business when your players start punching people in the face in the crowd, the dog whistles were really dog whistling on this dress code. To run down some of the things that the dress code prohibited, they didn't allow sleeveless shirts, shorts, headphones, chains, pendants, or medallions of any sort, so it's clear that they were trying to keep Soulja Boy away from any NBA games by any means possible. And even though some players ignored the dress code like Allen Iverson, and some even called it out as being racist like Jason Richardson, ultimately Stern's plan to rid the league of its hip-hop influence was relatively successful. Luckily, while Stern was able to rid the league of its quote-unquote hip-hop influence for a while at least, he unknowingly opened the door for some of the most unique and iconic outfits the world has ever seen, also known as the NBA Clark Kent era. This era of fashion in the early 2010s NBA, where guys like LeBron and Kevin Durant and Dwayne Wade walked into games with rimless shades looking like accountants who were ready to go get 30, has become beloved by fans of the game across the world. But what a lot of people may not know, and the reason why this entry is on the list, is that this dress code opened the door for NBA players to express themselves through fashion in a way that Stern may not have intended when he initiated the dress code. Guys like Dwayne Wade have even opened up and credited David Stern's dress code with inventing a new way for guys to express themselves through fashion, and in my eyes, any way of resisting against something meant to hold a people down is worthy of being on a Black History Month list. Moment number 2. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar fades a rookie in the name of civil rights. One of the guys that the NBA loves to highlight during their Black History Month celebration is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and it's for good reason. As a superstar and face of the league, Kareem is everything you would want from a black athlete, and his concrete morals and strong character epitomize everything that a superstar should be, and has helped set the blueprint for guys like LeBron in terms of utilizing their platform to advance issues of social justice. Kareem is truly an icon whose influence has transcended the realm of basketball, and he deserves every bit of praise he gets from the league and more. And one of his most underrated contributions to Black history, at least to me, is fading an NBA rookie who represented something very sinister. To set the stage for this moment, the year is 1977, and racial tensions within the US are still high, and the division felt throughout the country has manifested within the NBA. Especially in the time following the NBA-ABA merger, which occurred in 1976, there were constant attempts to find the next great white hope player, which was an American-born white player who could potentially compare with black basketball players who were perceived to have taken over the purity of the league. Enter one Kent Benson, a rookie big man out of Indiana who was drafted number 1, and a guy who, like many other players, sought to make his mark against the league's biggest star, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, a man who had been so dominant for a long time that they literally had to change the rules of basketball to adjust to him. Now, in his defense, Benson likely didn't know about the standards of Great White Hope being hoisted upon him, and like many players who get this label, he likely wasn't a big fan of the idea, but unfortunately for him, Kareem was not a fan of what he represented. And so, 2 minutes into his first game, playing against the best player in the world at the time, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, while jostling for position in the post, Benson delivered an elbow to Kareem's midsection that crumpled him. And upon realizing that he was not going to get a call, Kareem got up and took justice into his own hands, and lined up the shot and absolutely dropped Benson with the right. I think now's a great time to clarify that I don't condone or support violence of any sort. But I will say that when you put this punch into context, especially with the racial tensions that were manifesting throughout the country and in the ABA and NBA merger, it has more significance to Black history than people tend to give it. And for that, I had to put it on this list. And for the final entry on this list, moment number 3, literally everything about Allen Iverson. You can't make a secret Black history icons list about the NBA and leave out Allen Iverson. And he's unquestionably an NBA icon and a Black cultural icon. A man who deserves so much more praise than what the NBA is willing to give him, especially during Black History Month. Despite the minimal attempts made by the league to show appreciation to AI in the aftermath of his career, the reality is that the swagger he brought to the game on and off the court, and his overall influence and attention that he brought to the game was completely unmatched and deserves more attention and recognition. After David Stern implemented that dress code that we talked about earlier, it was none other than Allen Iverson who refused to follow it at all, facing around $87,500 in fines and penalties for violating the dress code alone. When the NBA was caught up in the 90s era of big man basketball and bagless guards, it was AI who came down and hit Jordan with the crossover that changed it all. And in a league before NBA players could actually rap and drop a respectable album, it was AI who came through with real life bars for the league and for the culture. Anything to do with millions, I'ma be with it. Hats off to the hardcore niggas, fuck the rest. And my guess y'all useless, just talking music. Okay, that last part about the album might have been a bit of an exaggeration, but still, he was putting on for the culture in every way imaginable. Allen Iverson's influence on the game of basketball and American culture quite literally cannot be overstated. And the best way to illustrate it to you is by showing you this photo. You've probably seen this iconic photo before, but really look at it. It speaks to Allen Iverson's influence in a way better than I could ever put into words. And in a time before TikTok and before rappers were everywhere, Allen Iverson had young white kids dressed up with cornrows and tattoos coming to his games. And with the Allen Iverson tribute done, we've come to the end of this video. I want to reiterate again that I don't have any problem with the way the league chooses to celebrate Black History Month, but they do it in a way that invisibilizes a lot of the guys that have contributed not only to Black history, but to Black culture and the NBA as a whole. And with all that being said, those suits were still humongous. I really don't understand how we allowed that to happen as a people. We gotta be better. That's the message for this video. Be better going forward. No more baggy suits.